2019 Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:46 PM. Chair would entertain a motion for consideration of claims.
Your Honor, I would make a motion for consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $2,231,186.14, manual checks in the amount of $31,292.32, payroll and liabilities for October 11th, 2019 and October 29th, 19 in the amount of $653,538.03 for a total of $2,916,016.49. Excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Just one, Your Honor. That large amount, is that because we're paying on the road?
I think a lot amount of that is. I mean, you look at the claims in there, for example,
Dave's Asphalt.
30893, that's the $613,000 for the Village Drive project.
So the abnormally high is not coming out of our budget, but it's coming out of the 1%.
Right.
Is that true, Kyle?
Your Honor, and definitely Mia can help on this, but a lot of it also has to do with YDOT invoices. There was a delay in receiving YDOT invoices for the North Federal project, and a lot of those were included in this pay run as well.
Thank you. Your Honor, that's all I had.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that. I was we're putting money into the community. I mean, really, we are. That's tax funds that we're making sure are being used.
Well, yeah, but it's not like it's spending and you have nothing to show for it. It's not like a Christmas Eve dinner and you just feel full. We've got good roads. You can see where federal has really improved. We've gotten we've gotten value for our money.
Agree. Any other discussion?
None?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote aye. Motion passes. Any other discussion or any other things to bring before the committee?
I have none, Your Honor.
I have none, Your Honor.
Okay. And we will adjourn at 6:49 PM.
I now call the November 5th regular city council meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 PM. The Pledge of Allegiance, Councilman Schatz, would you lead us in that? And the invocation, Councilman Larson, would you help us with that?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity to serve Riverton. We're thankful for the blessings that we have, thankful for the surroundings that we find ourselves in. We ask that thou would give us insight, understanding, and the best that we can do for the citizens of Riverton. Watch over and protect our mayor and his family. We ask this humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Would the city clerk conduct a roll call, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Tim Hancock.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilwoman Rebecca Schatza. Here. Councilman Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilman Corey Rhoda.
Here.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Here. Kyle, is it your birthday today? Or Tim, is it your birthday today?
Yep.
So you're 19 again?
Yes.
Fabulous. Happy
Wasn't
birthday.
very much fun the first time either.
Wasn't that much? The chair would entertain a motion to excuse Councilman Carla Borders.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Schatz and a second by Councilman Hancock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I declare we have a quorum present. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Bailey and a second by Councilwoman Schatz. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Communication from the floor, citizens' comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is already on the agenda will be given an opportunity to speak later on. I would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, council members. I am Jenna Anderson.
I'm Tanya Santee.
And we are here with the Riverton FFA Alumni Group, and we are asking for permission to hang flags on Main Street the week before and through the week of National FFA Week, which is February 19th through the 27th are the days that we would like to hang them. And I didn't think to bring them with us. But we have two different flags. One is white with the large FFA emblem on it. They are 2 foot by 3 foot flag. And then we have blue ones that just simply say FFA in yellow letters and Riverton. So Kyle Butterfield has given us the dimensions of the poles and everything as per the specs, you know, reaching out into the street and things like that. But he said that it would behoove us to come and ask the council for permission to hang those flags.
Super. That was February 19th and 27th,
Yes,
through the 27th, right?
yes.
So is there any discussion?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think it's a great
I
idea.
mean, I'd like to see them, but
Well, and we can certainly bring them at another meeting. I didn't even think about it. They did just arrive. We received a grant that we filed for to help promote FFA, so this was what we chose to do.
Sounds like,
That grant.
sounds like a great idea, and I think, do we need a formal vote? I think everybody's in. Yeah, should we do all in favor?
It might make it clear, Your Honor. Sure.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. You're in.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
Thank you
ladies.
guys very much.
Appreciate it.
your name?
Anya Santee,
Tanya? U-N-J-A?
T-A-N-Y-A.
Yes, and
Would the city clerk please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, October 15th, 2019, regular council meeting.
Yeah.
Approval of the minutes, November 5th, 2019, Finance Committee meeting. Approval of the Finance Committee recommendations for November 5th, 2019. And an open container permit application for the Riverton Holiday Festival for the opening ceremonies on Main Street up to East Fremont Street and East Washington Street from 2nd Street West to Federal Boulevard on December 6, 2019, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Thank you. Is there any additional items that we need to discuss?
Your Honor, recommendation from the Finance Committee. Let me just get it up here. For claims to be paid in the amount of $2,231,186.14, manual checks in the amount of $31,292.32, payroll liabilities for October 11th, 2019 and October 29th, 2019 in the amount of $653,538.03 for a total of $2,916,016.49.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilwoman Schatze and a second by Councilmember Rhoda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Public hearing to consider the new restaurant liquor license for More Burgers Riverton LLC. Would the city clerk please read the report?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor and council, before you tonight for your consideration is a new restaurant liquor license application submitted by More Burgers Riverton LLC, doing business as More Burgers and Shakes, located at 122 South 2nd Street East for the remainder of the 2019-2020 licensing year. The Wyoming Liquor Division has certified the application is complete, the proper fees have been paid, and proper notice to the public has been advertised. Therefore, based on the information provided through the application process, staff recommends approval of the new restaurant liquor license application. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Rhoda and a second by Councilwoman Schatze. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I declare that the public hearing is open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statute and all applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium. Identify yourself for the record. Is there anyone that wants to speak? Seeing none,
Seeing none, Your Honor, I would move we close the public hearing.
Second.
a motion by Councilman Bailey, second by Councilwoman Schatze. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I now declare the public hearing closed. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the new restaurant liquor license for More Burgers Riverton LLC, doing business as More Burgers and Shakes.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Rebecca Schatze, Councilwoman Schatze, and a second by Councilman Larson. Any further discussion? Councilman Larson.
Is it, I noticed this is out of Cody. I'm wondering, is it normal for a Burgers and Shake to have a liquor license?
Your Honor,
Yes,
the one in Cody does have a license.
it does.
So for them, I suppose it's normal.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'll tell you what, it really smells good. This week,
Got more automobiles over there right now than I've seen there when it was open.
looked like a car dealership. Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passes. Public hearing to consider it, for the consideration of firework permit application for the Riverton Holiday Festival. City Clerk's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mayor and Council, in conjunction with the open container permit for the holiday festival, Mr. Cameron Faring has requested a fireworks permit for the Riverton Holiday Festival in order to detonate the fireworks for the opening festivities. The conditions of the permit application have been completed and the proper fees have been paid. The letter of recommendation from the fire chief has been received and proper notice to the public has been advertised. Mr. Faring is also in attendance tonight as required by code. Therefore, based on the information provided through the application process, staff recommends approval of the fireworks permit application as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Larson and a second by Councilwoman Schatz. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I declare the public hearing open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes, other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium, identify yourself for the record. Seeing none, then we have a motion to close.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to close public hearing from Councilman Larson and a second from Councilman Bailey. Discussion?
Where's the location of the fireworks going to be?
They sent that out today, and it's a little bit, I looked at the,
Saw a map, but I couldn't figure it out.
it's just west.
Your Honor,
Yes.
immediately to the west of the chamber, there is a slightly elevated spot before we start going up the hill to the tank. That area, that flat area that's right there is where they are going to launch from.
Right across from the high school.
Yes.
It's a little bit down
Well, it's-
where the old Boy Scout log building was.
Yeah.
A million years ago.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion?
We got a water tank right next door. We should be good.
Yeah, we did get a letter from the fire marshal, or the chief of, fire chief, and he said that they would have a vehicle available to us, and there will be a discussion of if the weather's bad, if they'll launch or not. So it appears to be a pretty safe spot. There are trees to the south of that, but other than that, I think we're all right. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the fire application for the Riverton Holiday Festival.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Schatz has the motion, and the second is Corey Rhoda. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Recycling program discussion. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. At its October 1st, 2019 regular meeting, City Council received a preliminary report that was requested with regard to recycling, and essentially that function within the sanitation fund. Following the report, staff was directed to provide further analysis, and as such, we have done so to some extent. What you have before you in the staff report denotes the over-under of fiscal year 11 to fiscal year 19, which was recently completed. As we have not already gone through our current year, we didn't have comparative numbers, so we did not put the ongoing, nor did we have really great numbers before fiscal year 11. As such, the numbers that you have presented to you in the table show from fiscal year 2011 to fiscal year 19. 2 of those years, we show the cost of service delivery modified and highlighted in red. Those are years that our operational costs were less. as we had less staffing for one reason or another at the time. Sometimes that's people changing jobs, sometimes it's movement. So those changed. The fiscal year 19 that we most recently worked with shows approximately $115,000 when we take into account the total number of tons hauled that would not be in the waste stream, multiplied by $80 per ton, and then compared to the actual cost to perform the function. Additionally, at the previous meeting, we did speak about the credit that is provided for recycling. We estimated, based on the single month, that it was approximately $40,000 for the year, not for the month, for the year. So when we put those two numbers together, we would assume that it would be approximately $155,000, $160,000, depending on what month, because the credit for recycling will vary based on usage in that particular month. Additionally, one of the common questions that we did receive during the interim time period was how to discuss recycling. I was fortunate to be able to attend some training on the matter and receive some good information. Recycling is sometimes seen as a service, and it's important that we sometimes ask whether or not that's going to be a service to the community. When we talk about a service, we talk about things that don't necessarily pay for themselves. Usually those do not exist in an enterprise fund, but sometimes they do. When we look at the fiscal analysis of the recycling function, we see that it does cost more money than it saves. One of the other pieces of information that we found during our discussions is that there is a misunderstanding about how recycling sometimes happens within the city. Not necessarily by the people that are in the city, such as the Public Works Director or the like, because they already work with it and they already work with CES. The city essentially picks up the recycling. We drive a truck around, we pick it up, and we deliver it. We do not process it. We do not sell it. We do not ship it. So the function that you have, or the city has labeled recycling, is essentially curbside pickup, but not sale or processing. That is done by a third party. So one of the questions is, well, can we still recycle? Based on our understanding at this point, yes, recycling is still available at the same location where it can be taken. However, what you're talking about tonight and analyzing is more the curbside pickup and whether or not you want to continue. We do have additional information that was provided to you had a little bit to do with equipment. We do have some equipment which, if council chose to move away from recycling, would be either try to move it into other functions. And if that couldn't happen, then we would look for sale. But that would be determined, we would have to determine what that looked like once that happened. And once we knew what the market was for that, or if there was even a need. We could always repurpose certain things as well, but that would be, we'd have to find out. Sorry, lost my place. I do know we have representatives from CES here this evening, and they are part of that. They are part of that processing as we move forward. When looking at the overall economics of it, we've talked about it being about 155,000-160,000. It would be important to note that with that change, that would not be that would not be the total savings, because some of the functions that are done with that are also in sanitation. That would reduce your overall savings to rough estimate is about $100,000, because you would have to move people into other functions to pick up some of the work that has been done, i.e. work orders and the like. So when we talk about it, we like to talk in round numbers. So generally speaking, the change would be approximately, with the removal of the operation and the removal of the credit, you're talking about $100,000 roughly, is our estimates at this time. At this point, we've provided a fair amount of information. However, I'm sure there are plenty of questions. So at this point, I would simply I think that's all I have for right now, and if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Tony. Is there anyone that would like to address recycling in the audience? Okay. The chair would,
Can we ask questions or?
most certainly, I was just gonna get a motion so we could do so.
Okay.
The chair would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I would make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Rhoda and a second from Councilman Bailey. Now we're at discussion. Anybody have any questions?
What's the motion, Your Honor?
Well, that's a good point.
Oh, to discuss.
Open the floor for discussion.
Oh, okay.
On whether or not we want to continue on with curbside pickup of recycled material. We're not ending the recycle business. We're just wondering whether the city is best utilizing our assets that way. My question is when you say we spent 160,000 and then we would save 100,000, so the 60,000, 160,000, 60,000 would still be inherent with our garbage collection.
Your Honor, we would estimate that somewhere in the area of about 60,000 would be reappropriating some of those funds to make sure that the work that is being done and shared is still covered. So yes, it would stay within the sanitation fund, and that savings would only be to the sanitation fund, which is where it exists now.
But continuing on with that, so we're estimating 100,000, but we're saving about $8,300 a month by doing away with something like that. That's 100,000 divided by 12. It's $8,300 a month. My question is that a savings? What do you mean by that? Are we really saving that amount of money in our landfill or in our future requirements by not having this go through? Because we're collecting the recyclables. A third party goes in and sorts it, and somehow it gets taken away to a future location. And I don't know if that would be Lander or Sandral or someplace in somewhere else. But it's $8,300. That's a month. That's it. We're spending an average of $65,000 a month on garbage collection, going over and taking it and putting it in Lander. Is that really a savings?
Your Honor,
Yes.
yes. When we did the calculation, what we do is we assume that we know how much is being collected in recycling. And we assume that, and then we compare that savings at $80 a ton and take that against the actual cost. So if the cost disappears, or if we no longer have the cost and we account for that we're not even getting the savings, we still see that savings, assuming you do away with the recycle credit and the actual function in and of itself, because it would go to the waste stream. It absolutely would. You just wouldn't have the elevated operational cost that goes with it, if I think I'm answering your question.
Councilman Bailey.
Would I be correct in saying that you've already factored in the $80 a ton it's going to cost to throw the recycling in the garbage if people chose to do that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So that's if everybody that recycles now took their recycling and threw it in the dumpster, even though they still have the ability to take it down to the transfer station and recycle, just like we have been doing for them.
Your Honor, to be clear on that, our only calculation is anything that we collected. So if we assume that's gone, if everybody decided that already taking their stuff down there said, okay, now I'm going to throw it in, but there's no way, that would be different, but there's no way for us to estimate that because we don't know what it is.
Correct. Any other questions? Councilman Bailey?
So again, I guess my comment would be to clarify that we are not discontinuing recycling because we don't do recycling. We're just doing the pickup. And I don't think it's fiscally responsible for the city of Riverton to spend $100,000 plus to continue curbside pickup. And so I would move that we discontinue curbside pickup.
One question, Your Honor.
Kyle?
What's our numbers? Do we have 100% participation? Do we have 80%? What's our feeling on the community that recycles? Do we have a number on that?
I would defer to Mia for a motion.
Mia, can you help us?
Your Honor, we are unable to determine how many monthly customers that we have, how many customers that we have consistently on a monthly basis that participates in recycling. The reason is the way that our billing software is set up. If a customer recycles, we scan a barcode, or they scan their own barcode if they were to take it down to the baling facility, and it creates a recycling event in our billing system. At that point, once we run the billing, it's set up so it's a default. So the billing, everybody's billed for a particular garbage rate based on their garbage container size. And then if the customer has a recycling event, it stems an event in the billing system, and it will tell the system that if there's recycling, then provide this billing rate. But what happens then is it removes that information and resets month over month over month, because if a person decides or opts to not recycle the next month, then we need to know that they would need to be billed at a different rate. So it's very hard for us to determine how many customers are recycling consistently on a monthly basis. We don't have a report of that. What we're able to pull a report of was the amount of monies that we billed customers at a particular point in time, and then we were able to annualize over that to get a determination as far as how much we're giving for a recycling credit on an annualized basis.
And that's the $40,000.
That's correct.
Figure. So I suppose you could amortize that out also, Kyle, to get to that number. It would just be a round number assessment.
That's one question.
Sure, Kyle.
Andy, would you come up to the podium there? You thought I wouldn't see you.
I'd hope so.
What amount of recycling material do we, the city of Riverton, give to you guys? Do you have that, or do you keep track of that?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Larson, we do. I don't have that information with me tonight. I apologize. I wasn't, I wouldn't feel comfortable in doing so, sir.
Your Honor, maybe I can help Andy. I do have those numbers in front of me.
Super.
So for fiscal year 19, we deposited 156 tons. In fiscal year 18, 208 tons. The highest that we had represents fiscal year 16, and that was about 1,000 tons of recyclables that were deposited. And I should say were collected through the curbside program. Your Honor, I can also estimate, we previously tracked residences who did recycle, and in looking at some of the old data we have, and Ms. Harris is absolutely correct, we do not have a current list, but from old lists, we had as many as 1,000 households that were participating in the recycling program. So you can kind of use that as a gauge of those who in the past have recycled. It's not an accurate number to date, but it at least gives you a ballpark.
Kyle, can you give us the high number again?
Yes, Your Honor, and in fact, I can just run through the fiscal years if you'd like. Fiscal year 19, 156 tons. Fiscal year 18, 208 tons. Fiscal year 17, 776 tons. Fiscal year 16, 1,078 tons. Fiscal year 15, 896 tons. And then let's stop at fiscal year 14, and that's at 922 tons.
In your honor, within your staff report, the tons of collected recycling is the first column, is the first row.
Rebecca showed me, I'm back
Okay.
on page. I was on the right page, just couldn't read, right?
Yes.
It's been my problem all my life. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just ask a question. I noticed there's a sharp drop after fiscal year of 2016. Is that when the glass, when they,
Your Honor, Councilman, no. The dramatic drop has to do with when the drop-off locations were removed.
okay.
A number of years ago, we had to change the recycling program, and we eliminated the drop-offs, and the reason is because of the contamination that was occurring. It required a lot of man-hours on CES and Fremont County Solid Waste. And so we discontinued that, amended our curbside program. If you remember, we used to do one commodity a day, and you had to kind of keep track as a recycler. We changed that so you could put all commodities out on your collection day. And the reason that curbside was continued was because it's such a clean waste stream. But we've seen that once the drop-off locations were eliminated, participation in the program also changed. We didn't see as many people who were participating in the drop-offs continue with their participation through curbside.
Would it be safe to say, so more people participated in one large drop-off area as opposed to curbside then? When you look at the numbers, I mean, it kind of, the way I'm interpreting it, when those were removed, almost 50% within 2 years, 80% of that number is dropped. So that leads me to assume when you had those large parking spots, obviously it was more contaminated, but you were having more participation that way?
Your Honor, I would agree with that analysis.
What was the month and date that we discontinued the, having it at Smith's or those locations?
Your Honor, I would have to look into that. I believe it was in springtime, but to get you the exact month, I'd have to look into it.
Of 17?
Yes.
Kyle?
Andy, how would that affect our storage, or, whatever that we call that, up limit on when we can close or put one of those to sleep? If we discontinued our recycling, would that really affect your storage over in Lander there on your capacity?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Larson, all waste diverted from the landfill will ultimately have an effect on the life of the landfill. When you permit a site, you're permitting a volume. So the more waste that you're able to divert outside of that landfill will extend the life. There's a lot of numbers being thrown around tonight. It's wonderful. I really encourage the council to postpone maybe making a decision on this until maybe Kyle, myself, and potentially some council members would have an opportunity to sit down. You know, what we're hearing tonight is when you remove the convenience of certain services, participation will drop. I mean, we're hearing right now when we removed the drop sites, participation dropped. What's going to happen when you potentially remove your curbside program is participation is going to drop. You know, again, there was some conversation early on about whether this is a service versus a cost center. And let me tell you what, we try to run the district as fiscally responsible as we can, but there's certain programs that exist that are not going to make money, they're not going to break even, and I promise you every year they will lose money. You know, we had a lot of open conversations with communities during 2015, 2016, and there was a lot of social discussion, discussion around social facts, social values, social considerations, and things that residents and businesses take into consideration when they look at a community and whether they want to locate there, start up a new business, relocate a business, relocate their family. And services are one of those things that they look at. You know, do you have trees along the side of your sidewalks, your bike paths? Do you offer recycling? You know, these are things that are taken into consideration, and when you're talking about potentially saving $100,000 a year, that's, I haven't seen the spreadsheet, but is that based on the 156 tons diverted in fiscal year 19? You know, that's not much, but if we get back to the era when we're diverting 1,078 tons, that has a real impact on your budget. I feel like I'm really getting into this discussion late in the game, and I apologize for delaying anything, but it just seems like we're running at this pretty fast if we're going to take action tonight.
Andy, I was, over the weekend, Sunday, I was up at South Pass, and you have your landfill open for 4 whole hours on
Yes, sir.
Sunday afternoon. So you see this same budget crunch, don't you?
Yes,
So if you live in anywhere in Atlantic City, you got to show up between 1 and 4, 1 and 5, and your dumpster is covered and locked afterwards and hauled away.
And that's volunteer too.
Yeah. And so here we are, you know, you're pointing out that we need to do something, and yet we've closed down the landfills all over the county to where they're down to a few hours of open. And so that's where we're at too. So, you know, this causes problems on all sides. And so I think you can understand my question to you.
Mr. Mayor, I absolutely agree. I'm not even asking you to not take action on this. I just think that it's potentially worth some more interaction, some more conversation, probably some public meetings. I tell you, we were taken to task when we looked at the idea of taking action even after about a year of public meetings. So I would just caution that. As Mr. Larson pointed out, up in Atlantic City, it's a neat thing. At our rural sites, we offer communities the option to run their sites under a volunteer program if we train them. And so ultimately, that 4 hours and that date is chosen by that volunteer group, but they could have it more. And you know, maybe that volunteer program discussion is something that could take place within a recycling topic too.
Appreciate that. Any other questions for Andy?
Sean,
Sean, could you come up and give us your thoughts?
My name is Sean Griffin with Community Entry Services. I was just going to clarify some of the questions that you had, Councilman Rhoda, in relationship to the numbers that went down and how. One of the factors that wasn't considered in that was those people really, in many cases, weren't using those drop-off bins to recycle at all. That wasn't their intent, nor was it anything. It was just people that did not want to pay to have it taken across the scale, so they just threw their whole trash bags in there, so they didn't sort and all that stuff. And another factor that we're not taking into consideration with that numbers going down, a lot of it was people from the county that didn't have paid pickup for their trash. And instead of taking it across the scale, they just conveniently dumped it into the dumpsters up there is what it was. And so we had to, so basically we were sorting trash in many cases, mixed with a lot of, like Andy said, a lot of contaminants. And so I don't think it was good people and just a few bad people. I think it was a lot of bad people that ruined that for everybody. And those people had no intent in recycling. And so that's why those numbers went down. Those numbers wouldn't stay up if we kept those bins.
Sean,
As far as the rest of the conversation, I said this at the last meeting. I understand, you know, I run a business too, and we have to be fiscally conservative. We have to watch our bottom line and what costs and what doesn't cost. I would caution too, public. We had this same discussion years ago, if everybody remembers. We had this same exact discussion about the elimination of the recycling programs in Riverton. And there was a lot of committee members that showed up, and I don't have to get reelected. I live in the county. And so, you know, I understand what you guys and why you are talking about this now, but without a chance for the public to comment on it. There was discussion before, would the public be willing to pay more money to keep recycling? I think that might be at least a fair question to ask people in this community. But again, I'm not a councilman. I understand your concerns. We just need to be kept abreast and appreciate the time to come.
thank you. Any other discussion?
Your Honor.
Yeah.
If we were to, as it stands right now, we used to do things, and as I actually looked that up, Kyle, by the way, we announced on our website April 2017 is when we said we were going to move to having anything being able to be picked up once a week. So that's right around when the recycling program changed with having the bins and everything throughout the community. So anyway, in case you were wondering.
Thank you.
And I would say was a pretty big drop, considering that happened in about March fiscal year. That would be 3/4 of the fiscal year, and I think that's reflected in the tons of collected recycling, that you end up with about 3/4 of what we had been collecting in the last year. Some of that, I wonder if that was, I mean, when we say tons of collected recycling, is that just everything that they received, or is that what they actually, in other words, if somebody threw a bicycle in there, is that counted among that 1,078 in fiscal year 16, or is that just the recyclables that they had separated out from the junk that was tossed in?
Your Honor, the weights that you see include everything, and so part of the sorted items that were picked up curbside, those are the total weights, and then it's the weights of the trailers as well. So if there was trash, if there were non-suitable items, they would have been counted as it went over the weigh scale and then deposited for CES to sort. So that would be a total with the weights. I believe Mr. Griffin's analysis was very appropriate.
So in other words, if we're saying 1,078 tons of recycling in fiscal year 16, that might have even been less, because we are getting guns even. I mean, whatever it was that we are getting random.
2/3 trash.
My next thing that I wanted to talk about is, I suppose, so you're estimating about 40,000 that we lose just in this incentive, this monetary incentive for people to recycle, where we're saying take money off of your bill. About 40,000 a year. Is that pretty consistent among all the years? I know that was more of a recent estimate. Is that pretty consistent previously too? You're nodding.
I would not have that number off the top of my head, Your Honor, without doing further research.
Thank you.
But maybe would be along that. And the reason I say that is because when you look, for example, at fiscal year 16, when we were getting bicycles and that kind of thing, if we were to take that, the savings, I suppose, not savings, but the cost that's reflected there was about 41,000. I would think that in that year at least, we probably would have seen only losing 1,731 if we didn't have the monetary incentive, if it turned out that we were paying about 40,000 to our customers who recycled. And then even looking at fiscal year 19, rather than 115,000 in terms of savings or cost, I should say, that'd be more like 65,000 rather than, well, 75,000 that we would be losing rather than the other. Oh yeah, it'd be more. Yeah. But no. I'm saying if we weren't paying out that 40,000, if we weren't paying that out, then we would only have a cost of about 75,000 in fiscal year 19.
Your math's backwards.
Your Honor, the 115,000 that you show in fiscal year 19 is without the 40,000, the 40,000 on
That's
top
not
of
into
it.
it.
So
Okay.
the 40, that is what it would cost comparatively for recycling, even if you got rid of the 40,000.
Okay, and then is that the same for fiscal year 14 too? So if we add in the 40,000, we're talking really about 81,000 there? Okay. All right, that's what I was curious about. If we were to eliminate some of the pickup times, how much savings would that reflect if we were to pick up just twice a month rather than 4 times a month?
Your Honor, I don't believe we'd see too much of a savings if we changed the schedule, because we'd still need to staff the employees. You'd see some in fuel savings, but those employees that are in that cost center would still be paid out of that cost center, and we absorb those costs whether or not they're driving the route every single day or every other day or once a week or every other week.
So the reality is, I mean, how many employees are employed just with recycling that the city of Riverton currently employs? If we were going to boil this down to a position or 2 or 3, how many are just purely recycling? Curb pickup.
Your Honor, right now, the recycling cost center has 2 employees ascribed to it.
So that's part of the cost that we're looking at when we see 257,000 in fiscal year 19.
Yes, Your Honor. As you look at your budgets for the recycling cost center, a lot of that are personnel-related costs. The other costs are fuel, vehicle equipment maintenance, tools and supplies, but those are relatively small in relationship to the employee costs. So it's not a very expensive cost center from the standpoint of paying for material, equipment, tools, and any other items. But it is a personnel-heavy cost center because of the time it takes for those employees to go around.
So if we were to discontinue it, we'd be having 2 employees that would be out on the street, so to speak. It's not something that you can necessarily absorb them into other things. I mean, there's not that much work to go around.
Your Honor, we would propose that we keep, I would prefer to keep both employees. We have the work for them to do. Right now, one of those employees greatly assists the sanitation division with our work order process, responding to citizen needs, repairing any type of maintenance issues we have with containers, vehicle maintenance. We have our fleet supervisor and sanitation supervisor here today, and I asked him to perform an analysis on the work orders that are provided by this employee in addition to the curbside component of their position. And it's significant enough that our department would not function well and serve the citizens well by eliminating these positions. Right now, calendar year 2018, there were almost 1,200 work orders completed by this employee. And again, those are responding to citizen complaints or internal work orders to ensure that we have everything greased and ready to go.
So in other words, if we didn't eliminate those positions, though, if we kept them on, we're not really going to see a savings of $115,257 for fiscal year 19.
Your Honor, I believe that's what Mr. Tolstead was alluding to earlier when he said that those costs would need to be looked at because there are items that need to be still handled, and those employees are necessary. Whether it's both, whether it's one, whether it's zero, we would really like to look at that. And again, this is a personal opinion. I want to keep my employees.
Sure. Any other questions? Kyle?
So, you're really saying that we're getting a bonus by having them work those collections because they're doing the extra work and they would still be utilized in the department, even if we stopped collecting recyclables. We would still be utilizing them. And so we're getting more out of as a bonus. Is that what you're saying?
Your Honor, what I can say right now as we're discussing this on the fly is one employee is dedicated to the curbside function, and that is what they solely do. When we have routes that have a lot of commodities that need to be collected, we double that up and have the 2 employees work. When the commodities are such that we can pull one employee to work on those work orders, we do that. So 100% of the time, we have one employee working on the curbside routes, and then the rest of the time, we have the other employee assisting with the curbside route and assisting with the work orders.
Your Honor,
Yes.
when we discussed the initial combination of the dollars, both the savings of the credit and also the operational costs, and we said, okay, here it comes up to about this much, and then we scale it back and we like round numbers, so it's around $100,000. That took into account the idea of keeping the one position that you were that we are discussing right now. The $100,000 goes with the curbside recycling and the operations of that. So as Mr. Betterfield has pointed out, there is the one position that is doing other things, and that is absorbed within the sanitation fund.
Thank you. Councilman Bailey.
So I get out of that, you might save one position or 1.5 positions possibly?
Your Honor,
Cost of one position or 1.5.
we would likely save about one position, yes.
Is there a possibility of just charging for recycling?
Sure. That's what we're here to discuss. Maybe we did this in reverse. I remember when we started, we we're hoping to encourage people to recycle, so we gave them a discount. Where we probably, it's a service, like we were told by our rate guy, that we should charge for services. So that, we did that in reverse. We should have raised it instead of lowering it. So we caused ourselves $40,000 reduction each year by giving back that and trying to enhance that. Now, the big volume came in when we had the larger dumpsters, and, you know, right now, I have a dumpster at my office. Occasionally, we put out a 20-yard dumpster, and you'll go away on Friday, and when you come back Monday, you'll be surprised what you caught. And so,
You were busy over the weekend.
yeah,
Some
somebody.
employees were all working, I'm sure that's what
And,
caused it.
and so you get a couch and some chairs and some stuff, and that isn't recyclables. You know, that's just weight. And so,
Stealing is what that is.
yeah, well, and Andy isn't here to protect himself, but a lot of this happened when we started charging for weight to go over the scales, right? And that's countywide. I mean, it's just become another one of those government regulations that, you know, we used to just take care of our trash pretty simply, but now you report almost every month how much money they have saved up, and it's still not enough money to do anything with,
Well,
right?
we've got perpetual coverage of those sacred sites because we're gonna be digging in them later on.
Yeah. And so, you know, I guess what we are looking at is even if the numbers are 100,000, every 10 years, we're spending $1 million to recycle. And, and with that said, I have had one phone call. We've been talking about this for 30 days or better. I've had one phone call yesterday from a really nice lady. I also had an email exchange that I sent to most everybody about, from a past councilman, that his sister and brother in upper state New York recycle. But you know, one thing that we got to remember is that even if we put it in the waste stream, it's going to go into one of our landfills. And our landfills are controlled. It's not going to pollute the ocean. And that's what everybody's thinking, is their straw is going to end up in the ocean. And their straw is going to end up in a dedicated landfill if it goes into our recycling, or into our trash stream. And so, you know, we can continue to talk about this. I'm all for it. You know, we've had the conversations. I don't know the real answer to it. It is a service. It ought to be paid for, if that's what you want to do. We could discuss possibly raising the rate to those, instead of giving a discount the other way around. There would be other ways to do it. But the real problem is it's hard to determine what is being recycled, if it's truly recyclables. And then the other problem is, and you see that downturn in our graphs, the market for recyclables is not there. So it makes it difficult for everybody involved to find places to put those recycling. So,
Your Honor,
yes.
I guess just as towards public involvement and everything, and when we did first start talking about this, this was something that a lot of people came out, they were interested in one way or the other. Our agenda, which is what gets published in the newspaper, all it says is recycling program discussion. And I just don't feel like, to a certain extent, a lot of people don't, you know, for example, when we had a discussion for this, what was it, last month? You were first saying we wanted to look at it and talk about it. That didn't really make it on the agenda. That wasn't something that was on an agenda that was given notice to necessarily to the public. I guess it might have appeared in the minutes, just saying there was some discussion about getting the cost figured out. But I just feel like if we have something in an agenda that just says recycling program discussion and we walk away from that and all of a sudden we vote and we say recycling program's gone, I just don't feel like that's the right way to do it. I think it's a good discussion to have. I think we might end up saying we'll get rid of it. And to a certain extent, Steve Peck, I think, wrote an editorial, what was that, a week and a half ago, for the newspaper, and basically said if the recycling program's gone, it's really just the citizens that have themselves to blame for it, with the lack of the use. Which, you know, if that's the case, fine, if that's where we end up going. But I don't like the idea of today ending up with saying the curbside recycling is gone, and the only thing that we've advertised has been recycling program discussion on the agenda. My thought would be, we have this discussion, I think it's a good discussion to have. I still don't know where I end up on it. I'm very interested in the idea of, you know, is this something that's really going to save us money or not? And that's why I was getting interested in the position and that sort of thing, because really, when it comes down to it, anybody that looks at our budget, the biggest percentage of our budget consistently is personnel. Except for this month, where it was mostly
Highway project.
highway project. But generally speaking, you look at that, the biggest part of our budget is personnel. So when you're talking about ending a program, you're talking about ending positions, and that's really what it is. And whether we're going to continue that or not, that's all part of the discussion. But my thought would be, and I think we're actually at the point where we still don't have a second on your motion yet.
Right.
Where you had said, you know, you were moving to end the recycling. If we get a second on that, my proposal would be that we delay this until our next regular meeting and give people a chance to have something on the agenda, which I know we have the agendas online. I know we have agendas on our website where you can actually see the packet, which is very nice for the public to be able to have information with that. But for a lot of the public that really all they do in terms of knowing what's going on city council is they read the newspaper, and it has it printed there. And so for those people, I think it'd be more beneficial to have something rather than recycling program discussion, having something there that says what we're proposing to do, what we're discussing, and seeing if people show up. And if they don't, if we get what we have tonight, which is, I think, people interested in rates and not recycling, then we figure it out from there. But I just don't feel like the word has really gotten out there very well.
Your Honor, I will second
Rebecca.
Councilman Bailey's motion. If you wanted to amend that motion, Councilman Hancock, to add a public hearing in to the next meeting. Is that what you?
So I guess if you second that, then we'd be at discussion on that, and at that point, I'd move to table it until our next regular meeting.
Okay, now, I have a motion by Corey Rhoda and a second by Councilman Bailey
I believe that was to open the floor for discussion, Your
for
Honor.
discussion, okay? So we're that, and then, Mike, you want to state your motion?
Or I could just withdraw the motion, and we can put it on the agenda for our next, first meeting in December or something like that,
Well, Your Honor,
to have a full discussion on the program.
do we have to table that to do so, or can't we just post the next meeting, have it on the agenda with the public hearing?
If I withdraw it, then we can just put it on the agenda for next meeting.
But I do think something where we're advertising and we're saying.
That way
I
we
mean,
give
this
people a
is-
chance to talk about it and come and say what they think.
Sure. So, Tony, do you have what you need, or do you want us to make a motion to that effect?
No, if I understand for clarification, Councilman Bailey has withdrawn his motion, and staff is expected to bring this back, state it differently, have a public hearing on it. The only question I guess we would have is what additional information can we provide? As is brought up, we provided some information as an initial, and now we've provided a little bit more specific information.
I think the information of cost savings is adequate and fair. I don't know that there's anything more that people are asking for, other than they want blessings of the community. And so they've chosen to table. Yes, Kyle?
Just one thing. When we're discounting to encourage, could you bring some figures on non-discounting and a premium? Break even, or how much does it cost us to collect it? So that we fulfill, if you want that service, you're gonna pay for it.
And I think a better thing to do, because that's hard on staff, because what we've done in the past is it's just been a voluntary system that they could tag their bill. And so I think what we would need to do is probably say something of, everybody that wants to recycle would be charged a flat rate in addition to that. And that's probably where we should have started
Long
7
time
years
ago.
ago. Yeah, and yeah, there's a lot of people that feel like, they would pay extra to have that service. And so we could offer that. That's an amendment that would work next. And but I think what we're seeing in this is this red drop-off on our charts is that probably they're not going to be willing to pay for that. We should be ready for that, right?
Well, yeah,
And so you're right. And if people came in and said, yeah, I wouldn't mind a $5, $10 charge a month to recycle, then we could take a look at that and see how that affected our cost centers. But
well, it's a service.
right,
It's not, nobody gives me a free water meter or a free sewage or anything. I have to pay for it. And the more I use it, the more I pay for it.
that's right. And so, see, that makes it hard on staff too, because we don't, because we were trying to encourage people to get in the program, we were trying to make it helpful. And now if you come across somebody that really recycles a whole lot compared to the guy that just gets a few tin cans,
Well, do you think 5 years is enough of a training period?
well, I think the bigger question is that the product used to be popular and now it is not. And so I think that is a bigger discussion, and there are going to be people that are disappointed. But the thing that I would like to point out is we are not losing the waste stream. We're still going to put it in our landfills. We're still going to take care of it. It's not loose out there.
Oh, it's going somewhere,
That's right. So
not in the ocean.
Not going in the river.
it's not going in the river or the ocean or into the air. We're taking care of that. There isn't mass pollution here.
Your Honor, there is, I guess, something I'd want to find out, so we can make sure we have all the information when we discuss it. I think, what would it be like if we charged? What amount could we charge? I know right now, I think, it's a $5?
Correct.
$5 discount.
Your Honor,
Yes.
for 90-gallon recycle customers, it's $5.86, and for 45-gallon recycle customers, it's $5.22.
So, what would it look like if we just got rid of that? And I guess right now, we kind of already have that. Thank you for pointing that out, by the way. I was sitting there thinking, we would have been all right in fiscal year 16 if we weren't charging. But those numbers were different, but,
We do know that that's a $40,000 a year discount.
right. And if we flipped around and charged that same amount, we'd be looking at making $40,000 approximately. I guess depending, we might,
80.
well,
80 better than what we have now.
right. But the problem would be, that's still in theory. You might not have people that are willing to pay $5 to recycle, which, we'd have to
You'd gain
see.
40 for
And
sure.
actually, they're going to pay $10 because you're going to do away with that.
Right.
And then raise it $5.
Right.
So now you're talking about raising someone's bill $10, and it would generate $80,000 off of the numbers we have now, but that could very well change on participation.
Right. It might discourage participation, which was the whole reason we were encouraging people to do it in the first place. The other question, though, I really have is, as it stands, I live on a cul-de-sac. You go out on a Friday morning, and almost every single house on that cul-de-sac has recycling out. 70%, I bet. So they do it. But they're pretty small because it's once a week. And so I do think that one of the ways that if, rather than just saying, let's nix it completely, one alternative would be reducing the time that we're going out and picking it up, as opposed to 4 times a month, if we were going to go 2 times a month. And that's what I'd be interested in as a proposal, just with that, just to see how much we could save there. I'm not thinking that it would be 50,000. I don't think that would cut things directly in half. But I am curious about that, just an idea of how much that would make a difference in terms of what you guys would be doing in Public Works if you were just going to be picking up twice a month rather than 4 times a month.
Your Honor, just one comment on that. I have gone through some of the archives on this, and one of the reasons for the frequency was citizen feedback saying they didn't have room to stack their quantities in their garage. And so that was one of the reasons for the frequency.
But that was also when we were doing it different types of recycling. So I'd be sitting with cans in my garage for a couple of weeks, as opposed to every 2 weeks, everything's getting taken away. And I mean, for the most part, I just don't see, I see a lot of people that have them out, but I don't see that much that they have out. So I guess that's my biggest thing. And I do think part of that feedback was back when we were staggering the dates that you could put what out. Like it was once a month you could put out cans or something like that. If we're picking everything up, I think that solves that problem. But I guess the alternative is we just don't do it at all, too. It's like, okay, live with having cans in your garage for a couple of weeks or not get it picked
When you
up.
get a bag full, take them down to the transfer station.
Hey, Sean, could you come up and, would you be interested at all? I do know you run a truck and pick up cardboard with your group. And would you be interested, Siri's talking to me now. Would you guys be interested in picking up curbside?
I don't know. I don't think so. To
Okay.
be honest with you. The individuals that we support, I mean, that's our primary focus, is the supervision to the people that we serve, and most of our people that are pretty capable to work are working in jobs throughout the community, and so I just don't have the manpower to free up a staff, because we have to have that staff with certain clients, and many of those clients wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, just a thought. Thank you. So, to encapsulate, we're going to move this to the 19th,
Your Honor, the first meeting in December would probably be best,
first week in December.
if that's okay with everyone.
And I don't know that there's a lot more preparation the staff needs to do, if you can clarify a little bit for us on that, but I think most of it, and we'll have a public hearing from the community. We certainly don't want people to think that we're not allowing them to speak.
Well, we're not going to blindside.
I don't think anybody's blindsided here. We've been talking about this for a long time, so it's been in the paper. You can see the participation, so I hope people come out and tell us what they want. And with that said, I think this is a national trend. This isn't just a Riverton trend. This is not just Riverton. So with that said, we are going to have it on the first meeting in December.
Yes, Your Honor, that is our
Good
intent.
for you. You got all the information you need.
Yes, Your Honor.
Council, do you have anything else to add? Thank
I
you.
won't be here.
Oh.
Not that that makes much of a difference.
We will be disappointed.
It will be.
Maybe we should move it to when you would be. When would you be here? The next one?
If I really want to be here, I could call.
We'd love to have you on the phone.
I could try to work that. It'll be an international call, but I'll
Worth it.
it might be fun. We'll see. It'd be interesting.
I don't want it to cost you more than the trip's worth.
Shouldn't.
Okay, are we able to move on, Tony?
Yes, Your Honor.
Kristen, are we okay? Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
We're on 12, if anybody's looking at their agenda. The bid award for the Eastern Shoshone Business Park Stormwater Detention Ponds, Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be brief. I believe you're up to speed on this project. The good news is this was advertised, put out to bid, and we opened bids October 30th with the following results. 71 Construction put in a bid at $2,798,498. Patrick Construction submitted a bid at $2,632,010. Western Municipal Construction submitted a bid at $1,825,951.50. And McCarty Excavation provided a bid at $1,348,442.48. We are participating with CITA on this project, and we have hired Inberg Miller to help us through the bidding and the design. Inberg Miller has reviewed these submissions, and each of the bids are responsive to our project specification and documents. City staff has reviewed them and came to the same conclusion. We therefore recommend the City Council award this project to McCarty Excavation in the amount of $1,348,442.48. $442.48. In your packet, I recommended a conditional award so that we could get the feedback of SRF. They are going to be a funding partner on this. I just received word that they have given their concurrence, and they are okay for us to provide the award and to move forward. I also received communication today from Steve Wilson, who represents CITA, and he took this to the Eastern Shoshone Business Council today and received their approval for this bid award as well. So again, with that, Your Honor, maybe I'll back up a little bit and just explain that we do have funds budgeted for this project. The engineer's estimate and what we had budgeted this fiscal year for this project was $2,454,232. This will be at a 75-25 cost share, City of Riverton and CITA. And as you remember, our 75% portion will be at a cost share with WYDOT at 85-15. Those agreements have already been approved and in place, and we therefore recommend that you proceed with this project with this award.
So Kyle, should we strike conditional?
Your Honor, I would say yes.
Okay, thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to award the detention pond project to McCarty Excavation in the amount of $1,348,442.48.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Larson and a second by Councilman Bailey. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Ordinance number 19-011, third and final reading, prohibiting engine brakes in the city limits. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be brief. Council has considered our engine brake ordinance on two previous occasions. On first and second reading, no modifications were made. During the interim period, we did receive some comment that it might be good to exclude emergency vehicles in the course of emergency operations from that. I wouldn't think I'd hear them over the lights and sirens, but in the offhand case that it did happen, it is recommended that council approve the ordinance as presented with the addition or the modification that we exclude emergency vehicles in the course of emergency operations from this law. With that, Your Honor, we recommend approval and would stand for any questions.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please read ordinance number 19-011 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 19-011 on third and final reading. An ordinance amending Title 12, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places to revise Chapter 12.12, Streets and Sidewalk Use Regulations to establish Section 12.12.080, engine compression brakes prohibited, of the Riverton Municipal Code and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 19-011 on third and final reading.
Your Honor, I would make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Rhoda
Second.
and a second from Councilman Larson. Any further discussion? Mike?
Your Honor, I've had a fair amount of comment from a lot of my trucking customers that have took me aside regarding this. The general feeling is that regular engine brakes are not the problem. It's the unmuffled engine brakes that are the problem. The guys that have these big 8-inch, just straight pipes on their trucks, those are the ones that are really singing and cackling when they use them. You know, a regular truck with an engine brake does not really make that much noise when you use the brake. And so, I would request that we amend that to say unmuffled engine brakes. And I know that makes it a little more challenging for law enforcement. But I think that would be a lot more reasonable. I think it would probably have the same effect, which giving us the ability to put a sign saying, no unmuffled engine brakes, and the people that are gonna not, it's gonna tell the guy that's gonna use them that he shouldn't be doing that. So, I've had that from truck drivers and citizens that live along Main and Federal giving me the same information, so. So I would move to amend it to say unmuffled.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have an amendment from Councilman Bailey to change to muffled, unmuffled and muffled.
Unmuffled.
Unmuffled.
It could just be unlawful for any person to use unmuffled engine compression brakes. It'd just be adding that word there.
Wow. And we have a second by Councilman Hancock. All in favor of this amendment? Say aye.
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 So now we're back to,
Roll call.
we're back to the amendment itself. I turned the page. Tony, do we need to add wording, verbiage for the emergency?
Your Honor, I would recommend that we exempt emergency vehicles in the course of emergency operations.
So does that need to be in an amendment?
Yes, Your Honor.
I guess I'm just wondering if we have any need to do that. I would think. And so, just so everybody knows, I was contacted by the fire chief, and he said all of our, well, not all of our, but almost all of their equipment uses engine compression brakes. And he said, is there a way we could build an exception for that? And I said, that makes a lot of sense to me. But if theirs aren't unmuffled,
Yeah.
I mean, if theirs are all muffled, I don't know that it makes any sense to build an exception for them.
That word's killing me.
So, do we want to make them muffle theirs, or where are we going?
I think you're,
They're already muffled. They don't have straight pipes on their fire trucks. They're in-
They don't sit there and
Yeah,
go make it all the.
here we go. So we're back to the original amendment, the motion, well, the amendment passed, but we got to go back to the Corey has the motion, and Kyle has the second. You guys want to stay in place
Yes, Your Honor, with the amendment.
with the amendment? So all in favor? Better than that, it's a roll call. So would the city clerk please conduct roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Tim Hancock.
Aye.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rebecca Schatze.
Aye.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Aye.
Councilman Corey Rhoda.
Aye.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Aye. Thank you. Public hearing, the public hearing to consider the resolution number 1400, 1401, and 1402, adjust water, wastewater and sanitary utility rates. Financial director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to say I'm going to be brief, like Kyle and Tony, but I do have a bit of a report for you this evening.
Thank you.
I know you've heard this before, but I want to share this to members of our audience and the viewing public because it does provide a lot of background information on our enterprise funds. One of the critical roles of our elected officials in municipal government is to provide, maintain, improve, and regulate the use of water treatment and distribution systems, sewage and waste disposal systems, and in the case of the City of Riverton, sanitation collection and disposal. It is a requirement that municipalities operate these systems in a way that monies received and expended are on a fund basis, whereby they must each be separated from other operations. These funds, commonly referred to as enterprise funds, are set up to operate as a business. A common misconception in communities is that rates charged for utilities help to support all aspects of city government. So we're thinking our police department, our parks department, streets and alleys. That's simply not the case. Rates charged for utilities are to pay for the cost to provide services to these locations and service to its citizens. Enterprise fund rates should generate adequate revenue to pay for costs of operation and maintenance, as well as establishing replacement funds for future capital needs. Rates relating to the water and wastewater and sanitation enterprise funds were last adjusted on May 1st, 2018. The changes reflected an increase in the water, sewer, and sanitation fund by 2.4% per fund. Since then, the city engaged Getting Great Rates, LLC, a third-party experienced utility consulting firm, to analyze the city's current utility rate structure and the associated costs. The analysis assists in determining what levels utilities will need to be funded to accomplish needed system development, refurbishment, repair, maintenance, operation, and ongoing sustainability. The consultant examined a substantial amount of data, including but not limited to our financial data, including historical itemized budgets, income and expense statements, balance sheets, and operational costs, borrowing and debt history, including historical and future ongoing obligations. They established our equipment repair and replacement schedules, as well as capital improvement needs, including timing and costs. They examined volume usage data per fund sorted by rate classes and codes, rates and fee tables and rate resolutions, and system-wide meter inventories, including their costs and efficiency ratios. The consultant provided detailed results of the study at the City Council work session on October 8th, 2019. Staff is recommending approval of the changes to the rate structure and pricing based on the professional recommendations. The proposed resolutions are effective beginning January to February 2020 billing period. And I would also like to point out, as you're examining these resolutions, number 1400 through 1402, in light of our current discussions this evening with the recycle rates, the consultant did make a recommendation to increase residential recycling rates over the regular rate for both the 90-gallon and the 45-gallon residential container rates. And that is all I have for now. I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Would the city clerk please read resolutions number 1400, 1401, 1402 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed resolution number 1400, a resolution adjusting the amount of user fees for the City of Riverton water system. Proposed resolution number 1401, a resolution adjusting the amount of user fees for the City of Riverton wastewater system. And proposed resolution number 1402, a resolution adjusting rates for the collection and disposal of garbage, rubbish, and debris.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Hancock has the motion and Councilman Bailey has the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I declare that the public hearing is now open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state law and other applicable laws. I would ask individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Seeing none,
Your Honor, seeing none, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
a motion by Councilman Bailey, and second by Councilwoman Schatz. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. The chair would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 1400.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hancock and a second by Councilwoman Schatz. Any discussion? Yes.
We've discussed this a little bit before, but I guess I still have a hard time with the water rate part of this, the per 1,000 gallon rate at 6,000 gallons going up more than the first, the 7,000 gallon rates more than the 6,000 gallon rate. I think the rate should be level as opposed to charging people more that use more water. I mean, the cost of I'll use my example of is if you buy, 100 gallons of fuel from me, you're going to get a price. And if you buy 1,000 gallons of fuel from me, you're going to get a better price, not a worse price. Okay. In this world, I could charge more, buy a tanker load, I'd get to charge you $1 more than if you bought 100 gallons. Well, that's what we're doing to people on this water rate, okay? I think the cost should be just level. For one, it's simpler, and for two, I don't think it's fair to the people that use more water that they gotta pay more per gallon than the guy that doesn't. Because we're all paying a flat fee depending on the size of our service. I think we should just level that rate out. Now, what it should be, if we want to shoot the middle or leave it at 261 or whatever it is. I think simplicity-wise, it's better to just have one rate, and I think it's fairer also.
I agree with Mike. I mean,
You sure can, I'll let you.
Don't sound so surprised when you say that, Kyle.
well, it's universal. There's no step rates in more. There's discounts. You want to buy more? I'll discount it because you're doing the same service. And I realize that some people think that we have a sacred commodity of water. We're in the business of selling water. Use as much as you want and pay the same rate.
Okay. Tony, you look puzzled?
I'm a little bit. Your Honor, if I understand that, one of the challenges that we have from an operational standpoint is the fact that we're getting water from two different locations. One is the creek, and that's true, but we've also had that restricted as of late. So saying that we have water and just use all you can doesn't even, a little bit flies in the face of any conversation with conservation. Secondly, it assumes a certain amount of, it assumes that we always have that amount, that we should always, we're pulling off of wells, and anybody who knows, everybody here knows how wells work. But ultimately, you can draw down on those wells. I've lived on the Ogallala Aquifer, and I've watched those well levels drop, and that's a pretty big aquifer. So saying any rate structure that has or promotes just more and more and more use, you're going to get a better rate as long as you keep pulling it out. And that also challenges our ability to provide that capacity over time. Some of the costs that you have with your with the cost for the meters has to do with how much of the capacity you're taking up. We have kept the unit charge per 1,000 gallons level. It is set at the 261. That is what is proposed at this point. However, if council wishes to modify the rate structure, we do kind of need to know where it is you want us to go, because it's not going to be as easy as changing one item, whereas this is all based around different factors and different variables. So we would need some discussion. However, the assumption that we just have water and we're going to have it and pump all you can probably challenges our long-term capital needs as well as our ability to provide that. You can always modify it and then you can shrink it back. That is true. I mean, we're modifying rates now. It can be modified again. However, it wouldn't be the recommendation, at least my recommendation, that we take that as a tack with regard to developing a rate structure. But that's only my comment.
Mike?
I guess, I understand your point that water is not an unlimited resource, okay? But I feel if we are in a place where we need to restrict how much water people buy, then we should charge everybody more, not just the people that use more than 6,000 gallons a month. I mean, if you want to really cut usage down, that would work. So that theory could be applied to the same thing, okay? If we're in a situation where water is tight and we say, okay, in the summertime, we can only produce 80% of the water that we have demand for, the rate goes up, people will quit using the water, right? Or do you just say, oh, just the car wash and the school and the people that use big volumes have to pay extra when the regular citizen can use 5,991 gallons and keep the cheaper rate? So I guess that could apply both directions. So I mean, if we're using the rates to control consumption, then we should watch that, and every month we can say, okay, we're gonna be short 10%, raise the rate 10%. And the rate, and the usage will go down. I mean, the economics would work the same way. Now, that would be very challenging to do, I understand. But I think in theory, it's sort of like our garbage discussion. If we charge more for recycling, less people are gonna recycle. Let's just face it, that's how it's gonna work.
Sure.
But if it costs us more, that's okay. So I guess to me, I like to have things simple. And you are already charging, for example, the monthly minimum charge, if I'm in the right place here, for a 3/4 inch meter is $20.69. And the monthly minimum for a 2 inch is $50.61. So that customer is already going to pay twice as much base fee as the regular customer is. So you're double whammy in them also. So the car wash that uses a bunch of water, just as an example, gets to pay a higher base fee and more per gallon.
Your Honor,
Yes, please.
just a couple points that I think can help your discussion. When we apply for grants, one of the things that we do have to report is whether we have a tiered rate structure to support conservancy. The grant we just applied for the support and replacing meters, did have that requirement. They wanted to see a conservation effort, and one of the efforts they wanted to see was a tiered rate. So that is something to keep in mind. The tiered rate structure typically, as Mr. Toll said, explained, goes to conservancy. And then also, we have to think about offsetting the additional cost to treat the water. So the users who use more pay for the additional cost to treat, which is another thing to consider. And I understand the value of buying in bulk, like Mr. Councilman Bailey brought up. But those two items I did want to bring up, that those high users that utilize more than what I would call an equivalent residential unit, so just for consumption, for drinking, for food preparation, for other sanitary needs. When you're above that equivalent unit and you're consuming more water, it costs us more to produce it and treat it and make sure that it's safe. And therefore, those that use more pay more for it.
Thank you. Mia, do you have anything to help us with?
I do. I have no comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, when you go back to that, I would guess, and maybe Eric or Mia can help me, but probably 80% of our metered water comes through a 3/4 inch line. And so that 0.75 line is where most of the water is being used. And then the next 1 inch line, we have some step ups that go to 1 inch. And those are all residential in large part. And then everything below that, the 1.5 clear to the 8 inch, are commercial use water users. And so there again, you have a difference that the car wash is actually making money on water. And so, yeah, it would be wiser to charge more money to the car wash than to the little lady down the street that's just washing dishes. And so the tiered structure has use, in my mind, that we're trying to serve the public as best we can. The conservation of it, if you can stay under 6,000 gallons a month, you save more money. You decide to go over, you spend more money. So I understand that the tiered system. I think it's probably a good service and worth that. Once again, it's the gentleman that came and spoke to us said that we're providing a service, and we need to make sure that we get paid for the service we're providing. And so these would have been probably better questions when we had him for 2 hours to browbeat him with that instead of an empty podium. So I guess we're at a point where we need to either put an amendment on, or we need to pass it or table it, whichever you want to do.
Your Honor, if you were to consider doing a flat unit rate, we would definitely need some guidance from you on establishing what the council proposed the rates to be, because again, he proposed these rates based on a significant amount of examination and analysis of our records and our infrastructure and our long-term capital needs. So if we're going to be changing, if we're going to change it against his recommendations, I think that staff would certainly seek a proposed pricing from the council as far as what you would like us to consider, or what you'd like to consider.
Yeah, and we need to be real careful about this, because what we're currently doing is if we go on the course that we're currently doing, we're going to drop out of money. And so we need to keep these on an upward spiral, and his whole process allows us to do that. So in 10 years, we don't have a huge increase, but we're a positive number instead of a negative number. And so, with that said, I think that you'll find that the higher usage, once again, is from residential customers, and probably in over the 6,000 gallons. I would say that that's probably 50 to 60%.
Your Honor, we did do some further analysis, and actually 76% of our residential users are within the 0 to 7,000 gallon range.
So 74, what is it, is that what, 76?
76% of our users are 7,000 gallons or less.
So I suppose if you're really looking for a flat rate for everyone and it just stays there, you're probably smart to go to the $3 and make everybody pay. And then the little lady down the street pays, she doesn't use that volume.
And I guess to argue with myself, I know that some of our grants are based on having a tiered rate. And if we have to have a tiered rate because of the grants, I guess we have to have a tiered rate. But I do so with regret, because I don't think it's fair.
Reluctantly.
Yeah, I reluctantly agree, because I just don't feel like it's fair.
Well, that makes
And
sense.
yes, it does move most of the burden to the businesses that use high volume, who turn around and sell their product, and it just means, guess what? The price of a car wash is going up.
That's right.
So,
Rebecca?
I was just agreeing with Councilman Bailey.
Yep, I think you're right. And, to be real truthful, water's important. It's the next real,
resource.
yeah, it's the next resource that we're gonna have problems with. So we need to pay real good, close attention that we make a positive growth in our water fund, and that it keeps pace with what. Anybody read the front page of the paper?
I did.
Right.
Let me get it delivered.
Just me again?
Oh, I read it.
Oh, my.
Tim, what did it say?
Oh, we had a good quote in there from Mr. Bailey in terms of how much water we're actually using that we have in the municipal water system.
And so the clarification was 34% of our water is unpaid for because we lose it in the system, or we use it without a metered usage. So the parks or recs or whatever. So with that said, if we're going to repair our system, what's it take to repair our system?
Money.
Money, last time I checked. And so I think it's wise to keep in mind that this guy does this for a living, and this is what he suggested. I don't mind the flat rate, other than Kyle's point, if we do need tiered for grant application, makes sense also. So I've got the motion. What do you want to do? Do you want to vote? We can vote and pass resolution number 1400 where it sits and move on. We have two more to do.
Call for the question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The chair would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 1401.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilman Hancock and a second by Councilman Rhoda. Further discussion? Anybody want to jump in? We're at the same spot. I think the same statement stands and holds, so. this fund is, let me back up. This is for wastewater,
This is your wastewater rate, yeah.
so,
It's one level rate, so I think I like it.
yeah. We finally got Mike pleased. How about the rest of you? So I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The chair would entertain a motion on resolution number 1402. The problem with this is this deals with us having taken out the credit for recycling. So should we table this? Is that what you would suggest?
Your Honor, because you have a conversation that revolves around recycling, and obviously we have a rate for recycling, it would be appropriate if you chose to. If it's council's intent to remove the credit, and that's almost a foregone if it were a foregone conclusion, then passing the rate structure wouldn't change anything, because all you would do later on is if you removed recycling, you simply wouldn't have the rate anymore because it wouldn't be offered. So it's up to council. If council were to think that as a whole, we're going to do away with the credit, then passing it wouldn't hurt. But if all in all, it's not because of the amount of time we have, it wouldn't hurt to table it whatsoever.
Now, I do know that Mia's trying to get this done and put it back in so it's in the January change. Does it still give you time if we push it back into December?
Your Honor, if you push it into December, you'll be fine. This resolution becomes effective with the January to February billing cycle, so the January to February billing cycle will not begin until January 16th. We would close the billing cycle on February 15th, and then the first bill reflecting a rate increase will not be due by our citizens until March 15th. So there's time.
Thank you. Tim?
I guess is this correct? I thought that the regular rate and the recycling rate he was figuring would be the same. It shows it was 3188, 3148. That is accurate? I just thought as I was looking at his that they were the same. He said he wasn't assuming anything.
Your Honor, I'm looking at his analysis, and it is 3148 and 3188.
Okay.
So that is
I just
correct.
wanted to make sure.
The 45-gallon rate would remain the same.
45 is the same,
But the 91 was
Different.
40 cents more.
and the commercial, they don't give recycling rates. See,
No.
it's not fair again.
But I guess I like the idea of tabling it in theory, but at the same time, being able to get this done and then having the recycling discussion later, I don't see a problem with that either. These are by resolution. We're already talking about having a public hearing where we're going to talk about recycling. If we wanted to talk about changing the rate structure as a part of that, that's already going to be what we're going to be
Unless I'm
discussing.
reading this wrong, we actually are moving the rates down in garbage pickup.
Yeah.
So I don't
That's
think we'll have
correct.
any complaints there.
That's correct. We are, these funds are going down in about $3. But with that said, are you guys ready to remove the discount for pickup? That's Tony's suggestion, and then we move on from there.
Good place to start.
That, Tony, am I correct in assuming that that's we ought to amend here or not? First of all, we're not going to table. If we don't table, that's a choice. We could table. If we move forward, my suggestion is that we put an amendment on it that does away with the discount in recycling rates.
I see.
It already has that. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's already
If we
moved.
took
Well,
this rate, it would
But
eliminate the
that's true.
recycling.
That,
So if we pass this resolution, we're getting rid of the $5 anyway.
That's
So I
right.
guess we might as well, I would move we table it and we discuss this along with the recycling discussion. I think that makes the most sense.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman Hancock to table and a second by Councilwoman Schatz. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Riverton Medical District, Joint Powers Discussion. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. little bit of a change of pace. The city is in receipt of a letter that is attached to your packet from Riverton, the Riverton Medical District, with a request that the city consider participation in the development of a joint powers board associated with additional medical services and developing additional medical services in our community. We have had the opportunity, as denoted in the staff report, to have a little bit more research and speak with individuals who know a great deal more than we do. What we have found out is, pursuant to statute, we cannot enter into a joint powers agreement with the Riverton Medical District as it currently sits. While the name denotes of Riverton Medical District would suggest that it is a district, at this point, it has not gone through the legal process to do so. And because we have to enter into that with a governmental agency, essentially, we can't walk that road. During that same conversation, there was a part of it, an option that was presented that has to do with what are called industrial development bonds. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's similar but not the same. It is a mechanism for community to provide monetary support to such endeavors, essentially through allowing or letting bonds and then transferring those bonds through a banking institution. And while the debt and the responsibility for the debt is transferred ultimately, there are some drawbacks that could possibly go with that. Right now, what we do know is that we don't know enough. The recommendation from staff is we don't know enough on that one. We have only recently had the opportunity to walk through this entire this introduction. So Riverton Medical District, and they have representatives here who can speak, asked to amend their request that the city consider look into the development or use of industrial development bonds to potentially fund a medical facility within our community. So what does that mean? At the end of the day, the information we don't have is in fact useful if we were to develop it. If we find out exactly how these things are used, that's useful to us, whether or not council uses it on this project or not. As such, you have the recommendation from staff that we take this next step. That does not mean that inherently the council supports the letting of any bonds or that we enter into any sort of partnership, but rather that we look into the different options that we have. This is something that could be used in the future and is a means of education. So why are we bringing it to you and not just going and doing it on the side? 2 reasons. One, obviously, this is a pretty important item that has been very public within our community. Council has been involved. There are members of our council that, a lot of members of our council have either attended, watched the different meetings that we've had, participated on different levels, and that's important. That's part of being part of any community. But also, the amount of time that this is going to probably take doesn't really allow it to be a side project. It's not something that we pick up if we have 10 minutes here and there. It's going to take some time. However, it does have some benefits to us over time if we were to use it. So, in short, Riverton Medical District is here to ask for your consideration and to allow staff to participate in that fact-finding into that research part of the project. At that point, we would bring this back to you for any formal consideration. Kind of gone on about it. We would expect that this would take, probably about a month. So again, we're into December, but by the time we get staff involved and we start scheduling all of the meetings that we're going to need to have to really understand what it's going to be, it will take a little bit of time. Your estimated costs are not significant beyond staff time. Obviously, there's a value to that. We would, of course, once we get to a final point, have our own personal legal counsel look over it. So there is some cost there, but comparatively, that's minor. That's about all I have on the matter. Obviously, there are some people here who can speak to you. We do recommend that we at least move forward with the next step. The step after that, again, would be formal consideration. And then the third step would be, if you decided to walk that path, would be much more significant in terms of public hearings and resolutions. But that's a ways down the road. I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tony. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this? It's clear as mud. Okay.
Come on, Vivian.
So what, are you,
When do you pass up an opportunity to talk?
Particularly about this project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you, Tony. We appreciate the opportunity to be here, and mostly appreciate the staff being willing to spend some time looking into this. I would second what Tony has said. The only thing that we really know about this for sure is that we don't know a lot about it. And we are willing to work hand in hand with the staff to study, to see if this makes sense. We know, and many of you, as Tony said, as far as attending a lot of the community meetings, you know that we have committed to the community that we will not try funding this new hospital through taxation. Many reasons that we have taken that road to not do that. And most of you know that is what we have committed to do, is looking at going through bonding, that the hospital revenue would be responsible for paying the indebtedness on the hospital, and that's what we hope to continue to pursue. The call that prefaced this and caused this conversation to take place was with our bonding attorney out of Cheyenne that Riverton Medical District has contracted with. Barbara Bonds, many of you are familiar with her. She's done a lot of the bonding work on a lot of the projects around the state and certainly within Fremont County, and most notably probably with CWC. And her recommendation to us is that we look at running those bonds through the municipal, the city, which would make them tax-free municipal industrial bonds. That lowers the rate. In our feasibility study that we had done, the folks that did that study for us recommended that we not go over 7% interest on the indebtedness of building the hospital, and we will stick strongly to that budget. Is what Barbara Bonds has said, is if we run those bonds rather than just through the medical district, but run those bonds through municipal entity, it would probably cut the interest rate on those bonds in half. That would be a huge benefit to us as we retire that debt on that amount. So is what we are asking, and is what has been proposed, that you would just allow the staff to spend time studying this issue to see if it, number one, if it's even feasible and possible, and number two, if it would make sense to pursue that. And that's what we understand would be the phase one of this, is just asking the staff to investigate this and learn more about it and teach us more about it.
Tony?
Your Honor, I would add one small item. From a staff perspective, at this point in the process, this is an educational process. This is an educational part. One of the things that we do know that is required, and we have a copy of Laramie's, is that there is, with this entire process, a resolution that says the different standards that a community will set for this to be considered. So when we're looking at it, we're not looking at it necessarily just with regard to Riverton Medical District. We're saying, as a community, these are a tool. It's an economic development tool in order to drive activity, to drive industry, to drive any number of items. And it's not just a Riverton Medical District item. It is absolutely something that you can use otherwise. Whether or not any sort of partnership gets built, it's a large corporation or a different entity or any type of different items, any type of different entities that could come forward. This is something that can be used. And it does require a set of standards that you set. So you have to check, once you've adopted that, anybody who comes and asks for that consideration has to check those boxes on an ongoing basis. And if you don't, then you don't. So, and why does that matter? We're always talking about equity, right? And that's exactly what has to be set up at the very front of this entire item. So that is the one part that we've already been provided by Barbara Bonds, is a copy of Laramie's resolution that does exactly that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Vivian, thank you.
Thank you.
So the chair would entertain a motion to allow staff to further look into the ability to provide bonding through the city for individuals, not just the hospital, but for all sorts of other aspects. And so I would need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Schatz and a second by Councilman Hancock. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Consideration of the Black Hills Energy easement on the airport property. Community Development Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. This should look hopefully familiar, as it came before us in a very similar format in August of this year. The reason for that it's in front of you again tonight is during the surveying consultant's work obtaining other right-of-ways for the proposed Black Hills Energy line, the 20 acres that was due south of where we had originally approved the easement, our right-of-way, was labeled as Bureau of Reclamation land. It was discovered through a title search that it was actually our property. And so when they approached the Bureau, they said, we don't own it. And obviously the title search was done. Now we have discovered that we do own it, and the necessity to bring forth a new exhibit was required. So that's why it's in front of you again tonight. I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve Black Hills Wyoming Gas LLC easement as presented.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilman Larson, a second by Councilman Rhoda. Any discussion?
We gonna find out we own any more land anywhere else?
I wouldn't be able to say.
Don't know.
It's just like Christmas. It's your birthday. Maybe you got some. We'll just
Yeah.
title it over to you.
Yeah, maybe.
Not a bad idea.
All this time, I've owned 20 more acres.
Yeah.
Did we pay taxes on that? Are we overdue on something?
Your Honor, both properties were exempt.
I was gonna
I
say,
looked into that.
we're talking about government here, Kyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Here's what I've been waiting for all night. Item 17, Riverton Valley Irrigation District Agreement, Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm very pleased to present to you this agreement. I know this has been discussed in the past with the council, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I do want to give credit to our attorney, to Tony, to the mayor, to the council, to everyone who has worked on this for a long time. This agreement centers on the discharge of the detention ponds that were approved today, and it's the discharge that would go into Riverton Valley Irrigation District along Honor Farm Road. This agreement does allow the discharge to occur at the engineered rate, which is 90 CFS. And maybe the two things to just make note of prior to your discussion is the agreement does require a payment from the city annually of $3,000 to help RVID maintain their system from our point of discharge towards the river. It will be paid in full for the first year. However, every subsequent year thereafter, RVID will provide an accounting of the maintenance that they've done on that specific set of their system, and we will reimburse them. So if they spend $3,000, we will reimburse them $3,000. If they spend $1,000, they will be reimbursed $1,000. The other important item to note is that any and all liability to a third party occasioned during the event of a discharge in excess of 90 CFS. What does that mean? We're just talking about a large discharge of water. So if Riverton has a major storm event and there's significant flooding and there's a discharge of water from the ponds in excess of 90 CFS and it causes property damage, this agreement states that the legal liability that it would be imposed on RVID would be assisted by the city of Riverton to the tune of $250,000 per claimant and $500,000 for all claimants, and this is consistent with Wyoming statute. That is something that we received a lot of assistance from Mr. Sollers on. From a budget impact standpoint, this agreement does require the $3,000 payment. However, we do have authorization now to discharge those detention ponds. Staff feels that this is an appropriate agreement. RVID has already executed it, and we recommend the City Council enter into this agreement and we move forward with the project.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate the hard work you put in on that. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agreement between the city of Riverton and the Riverton Valley Irrigation District.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilwoman Schatz and a second by Councilman Bailey. Any further discussion?
Your Honor, I just have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So you said in future years, if they don't do any maintenance, we don't have to pay them anything. But if they spend $1,000, we have to spend $1,000, $3,000, $3,000. They spend $10,000, we still just spend $3,000?
Right.
So $3,000 max.
Max.
In all the years that I've lived here, I don't know if I've ever seen them do anything to that canal. So I guess
Is that the one
they'll spend $3,000 next year, I'll guarantee you.
on, Mike, is that the one on Honor Farm Road?
It's from Honor Farm east toward the river.
From about across the street from the entrance to the Honor Farm, is where we'll dump in and then clear the river.
You've never seen them do anything?
My dad used to live down there on that road, and I drove that all the time, and I don't think, never seen a backhoe there, but it's irrelevant. I'm just making a snide comment, I guess.
Quit it.
They will start maintaining it now because we're going to help them, so.
Yeah.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I guess just some clarification, and I wish we had Rick here. When we were discussing indemnification and whether we would indemnify somebody, there was some discussion that if we do that, that we might be waiving governmental immunity.
Your Honor, that was heavily covered by Mr. Sollers. The worry was whether or not we would then become an insurer to RVID, as you're well aware. This agreement takes care of that in that, from my understanding, our ability to cover their liability meets the maximum that is already in place by statute, which is the $250,000. So if in the instance that a third party who owns property that was damaged to the tune of $1 million, and they then sought damages against Riverton Valley for that $1 million, Riverton Valley could not turn to the city and then say, this claim up to $1 million is yours now. It does have the cap pursuant to statute that it is $250,000 or $500,000 in the aggregate.
Or multiple.
If there's damage and it is exceeding 90 CFS.
Correct. You have to prove that we exceeded 90 CFF for us to be in the damage line. But if it does, we're limited at the 250 per individual and 500 for multiple.
And Your Honor and Councilman, one thing that I know Mr. Sollers worked very hard on was adding the language that says, if it is determined a legal liability that is imposed on RVID. So if that $1 million worth of damage could not be tied back to Riverton Valley or the city from that 90 CFS discharge. So it has to be proved that it is in relationship to, one, our detention ponds, and two, to their system.
So first, somebody would have to have a lawsuit with RVID. They'd have to determine that they are liable despite the government immunity they have, and then at that point, we would indemnify.
And Rick's other comment was that there's case law that states that those would be an act of God typically, and they wouldn't qualify for damage.
That's all I had to ask.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Now, I jumped, and I would like to go back before we get into reports and ask Cameron to come up and explain to us the open container, how you see open container happening at the holiday festival. Could you enlighten us? Thank you.
Absolutely. Your Honor, council members, staff, it's a pleasure to be here. I am trying to pilot what I hope will be a model for larger festivals for Riverton all year round. And the model that we are trying is we are not selling alcohol, we are essentially just allowing people the opportunity, if businesses wish to hold an open house and to create mood, create atmosphere, and to create a buying environment, wish to provide a glass of wine, which is legally, we are making sure that every single person who is serving alcohol obeys city, state, and national standards and laws, and just opening it up as a chance to create a festive atmosphere downtown. So, we have created a little card system that will allow people to keep track. It will also allow and hopefully encourage people to attend as many businesses as possible. Our goal is to have every single business downtown and eventually every single business in town have an open house as part of the holiday festival. It's to encourage use, it's to encourage buying, it's to encourage a festive atmosphere, and it is to encourage what we hope to be a focus on downtown and on Riverton as a gathering place.
So, in talking with Kristen, it can't be a requirement that you buy something
No.
at the store
Absolutely not.
to receive a drink of their punch or whatever they're offering.
Yes,
correct?
no. That has been made perfectly clear to everyone who is partaking and who is providing beverages of the adult variety. It is strictly on the house. There's no pro quo, there is no pro bono, there is nothing. It's simply to get people to come into the doors.
And we're not encouraging any of our liquor stores to set up exterior dispensary or anything like
We are not.
that. And so Martin Lumber could pass out coffee, or they could pass out hot chocolate with or without rum.
Yes.
So how many punches do we get on our card?
4.
4 punches. Okay. And so they can use those anywhere up and down Main Street
Absolutely.
for anybody that wants to participate in that.
Yep.
And I guess just the one thing, though, is that each of those business owners are still going to be responsible for making sure the people they're serving. I mean, that's the very first line. If they choose to do it, they have to be responsible for enforcing the legal drinking age and prohibiting consumption of alcoholic beverages by a minor on their property.
Absolutely.
So they're still having, I mean, I guess we would be encouraging them to make sure whoever is serving is going to be tips trained, that sort of thing, and that they're only serving
Yes.
to adults, 21 years of age or older.
And that has been made perfectly clear in all of my presentations and all of my speaking to the business owners. Anyone who agrees to participate and chooses to do so will be entirely responsible and will be completely liable for their own doings.
Kristen, we good there? Tony?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else got any comments? Thanks, Cameron. We appreciate
Absolutely.
your efforts. Good luck. Item 18, council reports. Mike, you want to start us off?
Sure. I don't have a lot. We've been off so long, it feels like a month that we've been off, but it's only been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, so. Needless to say, I didn't have any city meetings in that time frame. So I don't have a whole lot.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
Something I wanted to discuss, not to do, I guess, with the committee or anything. When I get bored, I read the city code. I don't know if anybody else does this. It's
I do it all the time.
enjoyable. It's a source of entertainment for me, really. And just something to bring up that maybe we'll want to look at. This wonderful little piece of ordinance that we have, 1040-010 et sec, which is just a fancy way of saying, and the ones that come after it, is all about motorized skateboards. Now, everybody might think I'm crazy for wanting to talk about motorized skateboards, except for Paul Bailey, who has one. By the way, he's my neighbor, which is kind of funny because I grew up next door to Paul too, and now he's just right down the street. He has a nice little electronic motorized skateboard, which I see him out with his kids on and everything, and his kids on, and it's a lot of fun. But motorized skateboard, the way we define it, would function as a motorized skateboard, but would also be these little, what do you call them?
Hoverboards.
Hoverboards that kids are riding. Because the way they define it is, I shouldn't say they, we. I mean, the way our code defines it is basically a self-propelled device which has a motor or engine, a deck on which a person may ride, and at least two wheels in contact with the ground, not otherwise defined as a motor vehicle, motorcycle, motor-driven cycle, or pedestrian vehicle, which would be hoverboards, motorized skateboards. And it's pretty, we have a lot of rules with these. For example, 1040-040 says you can't operate a motorized skateboard on a sidewalk except for use in crossing such sidewalk to gain access to any public or private road or driveway. So all of these little kids out there using hoverboards, because they fit under that definition, would, according to our code, be guilty of a misdemeanor. So we're going to have to go out
Are you wanting to make it a felony?
and arrest a lot of 10-year-olds because you're using that on a sidewalk. And I mean, some of this makes more sense, but that one to me just was like, okay, I'm not going to lie, I've seen Tony Tolsted's kids break this law, okay? I'm not trying to...
Your Honor, they were with the Hancock children.
So I say some of this in jest because, I mean, obviously we're not enforcing this. But I'm not interested in having a law that's on the book that we're not enforcing if we're really not interested in it. So my suggestion would be we look at this. I think some of it is good because some of it, for example, says if you're going to use a motorized skateboard, you have to be as far over to the right as you can if it's on a public street. That's a good idea. We don't want to have them getting hit. But saying, for example, you can't use a motorized skateboard, which the way I read it, it would be those hoverboards would fit. And saying you can't use those on sidewalks, to me, just seems a little bit silly. As well as that you can't operate them in a city parking structure or city park. Can't operate them on any public property. Well, this one makes sense. Any public property posted or designated as being an area where you can't use a motorized skateboard. You can't use it in an area at a speed limit greater than 30 miles per hour. So we don't want people going on those hoverboards they can't even go 30 miles per hour. So I guess I think it's something we ought to look at and see if we can. Oh, and here's a good one. Last one. 1040-050H. No person under the age of 16 years of age shall operate a motorized skateboard on any city right-of-way, streets, roadways, alleyways, unless they possess at all times, while operating the motorized skateboard, a written consent of the minor's parent or legal guardian. The written consent shall be issued by the Riverton Police Department. Have you ever done one of those, Chief?
No, sir.
Do you even have a form?
I do not.
Okay. It has to be signed by the parent or legal guardian and shall contain the following: the name and date of birth of the minor, the residence address of the minor and parent guardian, the residence and work telephone number of the parent guardian, and the following statement. I am the parent guardian of the minor named herein, and hereby authorize said minor to operate a motorized skateboard in the city of Riverton. I have read and discussed with said minor the Riverton Municipal Code, Section 1040. I didn't even know it existed, let alone have I gone over it with my kids, regarding the operation of motorized skateboards in the city of Riverton, and have assured myself that said minor understands these regulations. So these little 5-year-olds out there on these hoverboards, if they don't have that in
You know
pocket.
where to turn the body when you find one, you know?
Yes. So, some of this has been humorous just because it's always interesting to find when we have these things in the code, but some of it I think is serious. I do think we should look at this. I think some rules about it make sense. Like I said, I think it makes sense to have them be able to use them to the right, not to use them, for example, on the highway. I don't think we need to have little kids going down the highway on a motorized skateboard or on a hoverboard, but it just surprised me to see all this. And maybe, I think when it was passed, it was in a different era when we were thinking of something that's going to be operated by gas or something like that can reach pretty high speeds. And since then, technology has gotten to the point where we have these little electric things that really are not what was envisioned here. So I think we should look at it and figure out a different way. That's all, Your Honor.
Thanks. Do you want to put that into a motion, or how do you want to get that taken care of, so you don't have to?
Your Honor, I'll take care of it.
Thanks, Tony.
Mayor, I don't have too much myself. We did have a community engagement committee meeting, really focusing on the holiday festival right now. We also had our Fremont County School District Recreation Board meeting last night. Sounds like we're going to help some of the ball fields there with some of their water issues to keep it green. Aside from that, really good Halloween turnout this year. I was able to take my kids to a couple locations, the library, some of the churches. I was walking in as everybody was walking out. Rebecca was kind enough to save me a couple steps and tell me I missed it. I heard it was a great turnout up here. My kids look great, so that was cool. But that is all I have right now. So,
Hey, thanks. We appreciate the hard work. The rec center, or the Fremont County Rec Board, is going to help fund the baseball park watering.
Yes.
yeah, so they have a water pump, I believe it is, that went out.
20 horsepower pump that they figure is going to cost them $10,000. City of Riverton was going to pay 60%, and they requested that the Little League pay the 40%. The Little League doesn't have it. And so the Fremont, the school rec board chose to spend the funds from beautification for that purpose. And they didn't want to buy a capital asset, but instead they looked at green lawns was preferable than dirt. So we spent the money, the $3,000 thereabouts, maybe $4,000 for the additional pump usage. We were told Kyle Butterfield had hooked up a fire hose to it, very unique solution, and had saved the lawns so they'll last the year. So I thought that was good, and it's a sad note that we don't have the money to just say, buy it. But anyway, we were able to make a solution to that problem.
So they were kind enough to donate
Oh, yes.
$3,000 to $4,000.
Yep, yep.
Hey,
It's gonna come out of the beautification. We still had $6,000 left in beautification funds that didn't get spent.
thank you very much.
Your Honor,
Yes.
if I may, I just want to say my staff makes me look smart. All of that solution was Rusty Davis and Dennis Lawrence.
Give them a big 5.
I will.
Good job. Thanks for the help. Rebecca.
Kyle, were you done?
Yes,
With our first snowstorm we had, what our plan was with Kick and Trash was to try to help out people that are unable to clear the snow off their sidewalks themselves, just by like maybe grandkids reaching out from out of town, that type of thing. So one of our guys, our loyal guys, Brandon Nebel, actually messaged me that morning and said, "Hey, I'm off work at 3:00. Is there anywhere that you want me to go?" And so, I posted on Facebook, and I had a couple friends from out of town whose grandparents are still local, but they don't have any local family. And got a couple of addresses, so I sent it out to the other gals, said, "Hey, 4:00 today, we're gonna go make our rounds." And by the time we got off work, Casey Bailey actually went out there with her daughter and did those sidewalks for those people in town. So that was really neat. And she said that she's gonna go there every snowfall with her girl and get that done. And if there's anybody else, of course, we really want to focus on elderly or disabled who are unable to do it themselves and can't afford, to ask somebody to do it. It's just us people volunteering when we get off work. So we're not trying to do apartment complexes or anything like that, but let us know. And then along with the Community Engagement Committee helping out with the holiday festival, I encourage everybody to go to the website, which is the www.rivertonholidayfestival.com. Check out their calendar for all the festivities that Cameron and the others have planned. I've had a lot of questions about the tree lighting that we did last year, and it's going to happen this year, December 6th. So just take a look at that calendar. There's going to be a lot of great stuff. And besides this calendar, utilize the city calendar as well. There's a lot of events that people are putting on there. So we're really excited for the holiday season this year. And also, thanks for the city for letting me come and help out, pass out candy. That was so much fun. It was a great time seeing all those happy faces. So that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Tony, can we have your administrator's report?
Yes, Your Honor. Just a couple items. One, I wanted to remind everyone, public and on the dais, that the federal opening, the federal ribbon cutting, is going to be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. At Federal and Sunset. So the public is invited to attend. Really happy about that part of the process. I mean, groundbreaking is great, but we really like the ribbon cutting. So everybody is invited again, 9 a.m. Our force meeting is due to the holiday, and is canceled this month. So on Monday, we will not have a force meeting, as we usually would. I would echo Councilwoman Schatza's comments about the trunk or treat at City Hall. It was really well attended. I had some items come up personally, but so I was not able to be here right at that time. But we had a great deal of donations. Staff, many of you donated candy that was handed out. And Megan, how many times did we have to go to the store? Back to the store? Twice. We had to go back to the store twice for candy. So it was really well attended. The Cruella de Vil was really good. So it was a lot of really great costumes. Kyle Butterfield was Captain Jack Sparrow. So it was a lot of fun, and we really appreciate that being done. Just a great event. With regard to the calendar, recently, we're having a conversation with we have a small group that meets currently talking about marketing. It's one of the goals of council. One of the things that I've just heard about is the possibility of a patch that we can do with like the chamber, which would allow us to share that between the two systems. So that's one of the items we're looking into, because the more we can get those calendars to line up, and you go here, you go there, it's supposedly there's a possible tech fix for that. I'm not going to claim that I understand it, but we're looking into it right now. Currently, we do not have anything scheduled for the 12th, for the work session coming up. We don't have any items. In light of some of the work we're going to be doing, we're proposing that we do not have a meeting on the 12th. We would have our normal regular meeting on the 19th. If council is okay with that, then we just simply won't have anything that day. Not hearing any objections.
Yeah, that's good. I just pulled them.
Okay, we're good. Thank you. And finally, based on recent information, I'd like my children's permanent record not to be permanently tarnished, so we'll be doing some look into skateboards. Because Councilman Hancock is correct. My children are currently breaking the law possibly right now.
We probably could just move it up to a felony.
Yes. I don't even want the misdemeanors. That is all, Your Honor.
We are going to, the city hall is going to be closed on the 11th, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I just wanted to get that out. I would like to thank the board members of the Riverton Valley Irrigation for working with us and getting that done, because that really is a big deal. And I appreciate Kyle and his help and everybody that's really pushed in on that, because it was not an easy thing to get done. So thank you very much for your efforts there. We had a meeting with the Game and Fish about the 56 permit, and that really does look like it's a June activity before we get that done. So when people ask you where we're at with that, we're having to do a count on the animals in the area and a few other things. We have to come up with a donation list of people that get that, and we have to come up with a reefer trailer. So if you know of any of those things that would help us, we need to do that. I have a longer list, but I can cut that down to, the real big one was I did have a conversation with DOJ and over the last week twice, and they're trying to help us with some things on their side of that. So other than these other things for the dueness of time, I'll let those slide. If there's no objections, this meeting will be adjourned. Any objection? We're adjourned at 9:25.